I think I've absolutely nailed this. I think I've nailed the GOAT pyramid. What is the GOAT pyramid? I can already hear you asking. Well, it's pretty simple. Well, what I've got here, as you can see by the outline of the pyramid, is I've got 50 players. I think the 50 greatest players in Rocket League history in tiers. So it's kind of like a tier list / top 50. Let me tell you how I came up with what's my criteria for this. So, greatest of all time, very vague term in Rocket League. Some people think it just means who was the best player. Obviously, all the GOATs are right now because they're better than the players 10 years ago, or 7 years ago, I should say. That's when Rocket League came out. That's not really what I think. I think it's a combination of, results, who's got the wins on LANs mainly. Like I rate last year's World Championship as the biggest, the most important event of Rocket League history. It was a culmination of a whole year of competition on LAN. It never happened before. I think that event is in a league of its own. I consider that the most important event. Therefore, players who did well there, very impactful for their conversation in the GOAT debate. After that, you have every other RLCS LAN that's ever happened. They're the next level down of importance. Then you've got E-League right there next to RLCS LANs. Then you've got some, a jump down. The next important events are kind of like some of the better quality DreamHacks and events like that, other big LANs. Then you've got other smaller LANs that are kind of like the, worth, considering but not much, only to break ties really. And then you've got online events as well, which I kind of put at the same level as the lesser LANs. So with that said, last year was the biggest year for the GOAT discussion. There's more importance last year's for last year in Rocket League than any other year before it. But I think that the most important years after that would probably be, let me make sure I get this right, the 2017, 2018 and 2019 years, because there were so many LANs in those years. And I know a lot of you weren't around for those LANs, but I'll tell you all about it. So yeah, 2019, 2018, 2017, lots of LANs on top of RLCS. 2016, there were 2 RLCS LANs. 2020, we had a pandemic, so really not a lot happened, just online Rocket League. 2021, we had 1 LAN, so that's maybe on the same level of importance as the first year of Rocket League. But yeah, the big year is 2022, most important year for Rocket League when you're talking about the GOAT discussion. Then after that, 2017, 18, 19 are the next biggest years, in my opinion. I don't value, it's not really the fault of the players who played really well at that time, but I value the online era less in this discussion. So hopefully that all makes sense. If that all makes sense, type 1 in chat and I'll get started with my honorable mentions. So honorable mentions, players who didn't make my list. First one, Drippe from OCE, the player with the highest peak from OCE in season 6. He was the best player on a top 4 team at Worlds. He actually moved to North America, first player to make an international transfer, joining Evil Geniuses, and he carried that team as well, not to another World Championship, but he was the best player in that team. I think Drippe, always an interesting player to throw into that discussion. Not good enough to make the pyramid though, because he didn't have the longevity and he didn't have the continued success. Tarsos, also an honorable mention. He's had the longevity. He's probably the OCE GOAT, but he didn't have that peak that Drippe had. They were actually both in the same team for season 6 when they came forth, but I think Drippe was the best player in that team. Something else I'm considering for my GOAT pyramid. If you're the best player in a team, I'm going to rank you higher. If you're like one of the second or third best player in that team, I don't consider that as important in a GOAT discussion. Okay, 2 other OGs, SART vets that have to be mentioned whenever you talk about GOATs, but not quite enough to make the pyramid, are Mike Rules and Pashi90. They were SART vets, some of the best players when Rocket League first launched. Pashi actually got 2nd place at season 2 of RLCS at Worlds, as well as winning RLC Pro League. But I just don't think he did enough in that Worlds run to 2nd place to merit being a part of the GOAT pyramid. Devo was in that team, maybe the best player in the world at the time, probably top 2, I think, with Cuxer. So yeah, Pashi90, honorable mention. Mike Rules as well. Really one of the best players in the early days, 2nd place season 1, but Mike Rules, Pashi just missing out. They didn't get an RLCS Worlds win, but they are worth mentioning. 2 more players that are quite similar that I wanted to mention but didn't make the pyramid are Maestro from Europe and Jacob from North America. Maestro and Jacob, 2 of the first players who were not veterans of the original game, Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket Power Battle Cars, who actually challenged the SART vets. They were two of the first players to be good enough. In the very early days of Rocket League, all the best players were players who played the predecessor, but Jacob and Meister were two of the first players to challenge the SART vets. However, they didn't really have the peak or the longevity, again, to make the GOAT pyramid. Worth mentioning though, Maestro was, he would have played it for Northern Gaming. He couldn't because of school then. That was actually when Turbo subbed in and won the World Championship in Season 3. Who knows, maybe if Maestro played, they would have still won. We can't assume that though. Jacob's best win was also X Games. He was very close to making this list. Two other players that didn't quite make it, Alot and Mognus. They just barely didn't do enough. I think, they were very, very close because they, of course, had a second place at Worlds and a third place at Worlds. But yeah, then they benched Metz and Norris, who went on to do great things without them, and their careers went downhill. Not completely downhill. They both made a top four at DreamHack in Valencia, but not as good as, like, when you bench a player like that who then goes upwards and you two go down, doesn't look good in a GOAT discussion, so I can't put them on the pyramid. And also, I had to mention my keyboard and mouse players, Yukio and Fruity. Torsos is another KBM player. Yukio and Fruity, the best KBM players, I think, ever. But not quite enough to make the pyramid. Fruity actually was part of a LAN winning team for DreamHack Valencia. Yukio also was it just one-time LAN winning team? Yeah, one-time LAN winning team at WSOE. So they both won a LAN. But yeah, I don't think either of them carried their team. So they just narrowly missed out being on the GOAT pyramid. And now two players that I expect to be on the GOAT pyramid at some point but didn't quite make it yet are Chronic and Itachi. Chronic from North America, Itachi from Europe, from Karmine Corp and Gen G. They're not on the pyramid yet, but I very much expect them to be, maybe even in the near future, maybe even after the very next LAN. I might have to put them on there. They've recently started having incredibly good results. Okay, that's all my honorable mentions. The 10 players who narrowly missed out, the 12 players who narrowly missed out. I wanted to talk about them because they're all great players and they deserve to be mentioned in this conversation. But let's start getting some names on the pyramid. Starting off with the three greatest players of the Middle East region, Ahmad, Khaled, TRK. I'm putting Ahmad at the very corner there because he is the cornerstone of that region. I think it's a no-brainer to put this team on there. One of the only two teams who have really been in the conversation with anyone in the world from non-North America and Europe regions. So Middle East, of course, best Middle East players of all time. Ahmad's been at that level for years, unable to play RLCS. Khaled, also years, but not as many years as Ahmad. And then TRK is the highest peak that this region's ever produced. I think they deserve to be on the pyramid because no other team did what they did from a non-North America and Europe region. And they only played RLCS last season. It's crazy what they were able to do after years of not being able to play. Who knows? I think without these three players, mainly Ahmad and Khaled, and also Senzo, I don't think Middle East would be in RLCS if it wasn't for these guys. I don't think APAC would be in RLCS. I don't think Sub-Saharan Africa would have an RLCS spot for the World's Wildcard either. I think without these guys, the Middle East wouldn't have a spot. It's because they were that good that the region even exists in Rocket League, so they deserve to be on the GOAT pyramid. At the other side of the pyramid, I'm going for Yan Card Kaio. Kaio is the grandfather of this South American region. Card, the most successful LAN player of South American history, and Yan, similarly to TRK, the highest peak that any SAM player has ever had. It just so happens that they all team together. I think they all deserve to be in the GOAT pyramid. I don't think that's controversial at all. They are the best players their region has ever produced. And yeah, the level that they reached without being in North America and Europe, crazy to think of. No one expected that except very few people in the Rocket League scene. No one thought that these players could do it. No one thought these teams or these regions could do what they did, and they proved everyone wrong. In my opinion, that's greatness. But okay, let's get some, I think North America next. I'm just doing Control Z here, so we'll see what comes up. Rettles on the base of the GOAT pyramid right next to TRK there. Of course, being 1/3 of the Peeps roster that won DreamHack Montreal. Also, 1/3 of the roster that gave NRG the biggest challenge in RLCS Season X. Obviously, online is not worth as much, in my opinion, but I think it still is worth mentioning. And he also had a pretty good 2021-22 season as well. I think he is one of the greats from NA. For the next gen of NA, I should say. I think he needs to be on there. A lot of if you guys like a pick, just you can type W in chat. If you don't like it, you can type L. But yeah, he's a LAN winner. Rettles has won DreamHack Montreal, which was a very stacked LAN, one of the most stacked, probably second most stacked DreamHack after Valencia. So yeah, one of the most stacked DreamHacks. They had great results throughout the online era, and they made it top 3 in the Winter Major last season, top 4 in the no, not top 4, top 6 in the Spring Major last season. You know, he's got multiple successful LANs. I don't think that's a controversial pick to put him on there, even though some people seem to think that he is. So before you guys can all type W and L for my next one while I thank some subs, and it's Mist. I'm putting Mist on there right next to Rettles. W or L. Well, I say thanks to Nick 0 for the 3-month Prime and Hobbit Kolb for the tier 1. Appreciate that. The Rettles and Mist, obviously, they played in the same team to win DreamHack Montreal together. And then Mist, of course, had the RLCS Season X with Envy, where he wasn't quite at the level of Rettles SSG, but then he's now joined FaZe, made a top 4 on a totally different team a year later. I think he's more than deserves to be on here. For a while as well, he was in the conversation for best in NA. Probably not best, but maybe top 3 in NA, without question. So I think he deserves to be on there. Very similar to Rettles. So let's just continue. Arsenal, another player, I think very, very similar level of success. Historically, Arsenal's got a top 4 from the RLCS Season 8 World Championship. He's also got a top 3 at the Winter Major last season, top 6 at the Spring Major last season. Right, very similar to Rettles all the way through last season, of course, because they teamed together. And yeah, challenged RLCS Season X NRG. He also had a better time than Rettles in the 2020 year, coming second place to G2 in Season 9 before they picked up Rettles in place of AXB. So even though Rettles has that DreamHack Montreal win that Arsenal doesn't, Arsenal has a second place in RLCS Season 9 that Rettles doesn't. So I think they're actually very close as well in terms of greatness. Let's keep going. Let's get some blue on the list. Mystic, W or L in chat. Mystic is a 2-time LAN winner. One of them isn't actually the best LAN. I don't really rate it that highly, but they did beat Gale Force Esports in the final to win DreamHack Summer 2017. The LAN didn't have the deepest talent pool, but they beat the greatest team of all time in the final, handing them their first L in their first tournament. Alongside Marky Duda and Cuxer97. And then he also won WSOE with Speed and Cuxer97, as well as getting a second place at RLCS Season 3 and a third place at RLCS Season 2. He's got some great results throughout history. I think he's got to be on the GOAT list. Second at Worlds, third at Worlds, 2 different winner of WSOE, winner of DreamHack Summer. That's a pretty decent resume. Like I said earlier, I rate LANs very, very highly, so I've got to chuck him on there. Is Mystico's on there? Yukio should be on there. Well, Yukio won 1 LAN, Mystic won 2. Yukio got third at Worlds, Mystic got third at Worlds and second at Worlds. So I think Mystic just beats Yukio to the list. But yeah, good. You bring up Yukio like I did in the honorable mention, because he is an honorable mention, but I think Mystic just beats him. 2 there. Yeah, I know Yukio got DreamHack with Dig. That's the 1 LAN that he got. Right, let's add another one. iignite, W or L in chat. iignite is a E-League 2 winner, beating Cloud9 right after they famously won Season 6 of RLCS. Also, third place at RLCS World Championship Season 6 when Cloud9 won. And the second place at, I think it was DreamHack Dallas, again losing to Cloud9. So he had a real rivalry with Cloud9 when they were at their peak, beating them. They went 1-1 at the World Championship. iignite beat them at E-League, and then Cloud9 beat him at DreamHack Dallas. So they went, I think, 2-2 all time with one of the greatest teams that's ever existed. iignite, also worth mentioning, while Justin was making his come up through the rival series and everybody was talking about him, iignite in North America, iignite was doing the same thing in Europe. He was dominating rival series in Europe and got picked up straight to a top team in the region. So he's actually got a similar rise as Justin, that a lot of people might not know about, because Justin obviously is a lot more famous, very famous player. Let's move on though. Farah, W or L in chat. I don't think this one will be too controversial at all. Yeah, iignite like longevity, so he had a very big peak. He can't be on there. Farah, however, longevity for Farah, winner of DreamHack Leipzig 2018 and winner of DreamHack Valencia 2019. Second place beyond the summit. Didn't have the RLCS LAN results ever, but he did win 2 other LANs and came second at a different LAN. He actually finished top 5 in RLCS Season X. So I think Farah's got to be on there. He didn't have the RLCS results, but he had different lands. Otherwise, maybe he could be higher because he definitely had a lot of longevity. The best RLCS result he actually had was when he was 4th place on a team called Leftovers in Season 3. Him, Siki, and Snasky. No one else wanted to team with them, so they teamed together, came 4th place at Worlds, and they actually knocked out the defending champions Flipside in the lower bracket as well. So I think he doesn't have all bad results. Mostly bad results at Worlds, RLCS Worlds. Not all bad results at RLCS Worlds though. Nolly also on my base tier of the GOAT pyramid. W or L for Nolly. I don't think this is too controversial because all of his results are recent. I don't think any of the players who have recent results will be controversial because a lot of people are recently biased. Nolly says too low, SMH. Nolly, the good thing for you is that you're selective. These guys aren't. You can definitely like start accelerating away from them if you keep it up. Maybe if you win this weekend, I'll bump you up to the next tier. I probably won't. I shouldn't say that because online events aren't that important. But yeah, Nolly could keep rising, of course. Right now I've got him here because most of his results are very recent. Gen G, great stuff. Carmine Corp at the end of last season, great stuff. Before that, he was, in the mix, but not. You won a regional in Europe, but that was about the peak. So yeah, all of Nolly's results are very recent, but I think still great enough to put him on there. Also, moving to a different region and dominating, that's pretty great. So I think Nolly deserves to be on there as well. I also think apparently Jack deserves to be on there. Right beside his teammate Nolly. I had Chronic as an honorable mention because although the three of them have done great things together, Nolly and Jack had more before they teamed with Chronic than Chronic did. Chronic was a bubble player before he teamed with these guys. Jack and Nolly did have some decent LAN results as well. So yeah, I've got to put Nolly and Jack together here. Jack is way higher? Nah, no he's not. Wait till you see the next tier before you start talking. Wait till you see the next tier. Hold on. I know you guys are going to be like recency biased out of your mind thinking Nolly and Jack are higher all time. They've won one major. Come on. They've won one major. That's like the same as any previous world champion winning one world championship. Obviously they've also done a lot more than that, but they need to do more to go higher. I think they will, but for now I've got them there. I've got Alpha 54 right with them. W or L in chat for Alpha 54 at the base of the GOAT pyramid. You're not counting the second major win. Wait, you guys gonna win this one as well? Okay, fair enough. I'll probably have to put you this higher. But yeah, Alpha 54. The problem with Alpha 54 is a lot of his success was in the online era. I don't rate the online era. Beyond the Summit 2. Okay, right. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I didn't count that one, not gonna lie. Probably still won't. But yeah, a lot of Alpha's success was in the online era, so bit of a shame for him. It's not his fault, like he says, in chat. But there's no two ways about it. Winning online during RLCS Season X is simply not as great as winning offline on a LAN outside of RLCS Season X. That's just the truth. Same thing for the end of Season 9. No RLCS LAN. That's not great. Can we all agree that it's not great when there aren't any LANs? It just isn't. No one thinks that's great. We all think that's terrible. The opposite of great. So it can't be great. It can't be greatest of all time if it's not great when there aren't LANs. But that even without that, Alpha's still on the GOAT list because he was one of the best in the world during that time, and he's maintained longevity. Now he's qualified for his next LAN. I think he can climb higher. Because yeah, he's due a good LAN after a while of not getting one. Right, let's keep going. I've got Joyo on here. So Joyo, he was one of the players who's very close. I don't think any of the other players that I've listed here were close to being on the list, the next tier. Joyo was very close to being on the next tier higher. Problem for Joyo is his two teammates, who you can probably guess where they are going to be in the pyramid. Yeah, now that they've all gone in separate ways, they've gone on an upward trajectory, and he's right now in a downward trajectory. I'm hoping he can go back on another upward trajectory after that. But for now, if you're talking greatness, that doesn't do a lot for his his all-time, GOAT conversation. He needs to get out of that trough to keep going up the pyramid. Right now, it's Rise and Vatira who are like continuing on upward trajectories, and Joyo who's like either plateaued or a little bit down. So I'm putting him at the base for now. But obviously, in the very short time that he's been in the pro scene, he's already on there. You change yours in Jack's color. I'm not going to for this. I thought about that. I knew some people were going to ask why are they blue. Well, it's because it doesn't matter how many times you move region, you are still Europeans. So I'm going to leave you European. But for prediction streams, I will use red for North America, because for prediction purposes, you'd be a North American team. But for GOAT players, nothing's going to change the fact that your European players side decided to put you blue. Okay, let's continue. We've got Beast Mode, who honestly has the least results out of anyone in this whole pyramid. The least results. But he's been a hard carry for his team, conversation for best in the world. So even though he doesn't have the results, he's got two top fours at LANs, I believe. I still want to put him on there because results is one part of it. Another part of it is just who actually is the best player. If somebody's literally the best player or in the conversation for best player, that's pretty great in my opinion. So I've got to put him on the pyramid because he's been the best player in his team. Since he started playing, he's always been the best player in his team. Now he's the best player in one of the best in North America, top 2 I think for the past year with First Killer, and then this season, you've got a Gen G kind of ruining that for him. But yeah, Beast Mode, come on, he's got just too much talent. None of the other honorable mentions I had who didn't have the results were ever considered like the best or in the conversation for best. But I think Beast Mode has to be on here because he's the best in his team. Like I said earlier, for me personally, if someone's the best on their team, I'm going to rank them up a little bit higher. If somebody's like not the best in their team, I'm not going to rank them up any higher. So I'm putting Beast Mode on there. That's why. Last one on this list is AJ, who actually has a 4th place at RLCS Season 7 going way back at Worlds there. He was the best player in that team, I believe. He's also had great results throughout RLCS Season X, RLCS 2021-22, and recently hasn't had any good results, but I think like the results he's had before that make it pretty comfortable that he should be here. So yeah, overall, W base of the pyramid. I think we can all agree that is a W base. W honorable mentions. Like I told you, I think I nailed it. We've absolutely killed it so far. Thank you to Ionic Liger for 10 gifted subs. If you've been gifted a sub, I actually realized Chicago just got gifted a sub, and so did AJ, who got gifted a 6-month resub. What is going on? How do you gift 10 subs and you snipe 2 pros? How many pros are watching right now? This is that has to be luck. That has to be very, very lucky. Let's continue. So, the next line of the pyramid begins with Fireburner. The big burner, who is just like Jacob, my honorable mention, one of the first. Oh no, wait, sorry, he was a SARP vet. I was going to say like Jacob because he played with Jacob, but no, he was a SARP vet. So since way back at the start of the game, he's been one of the best players in North America. He won North American online a ton of times. It took ages for that to actually translate to LAN success, unfortunately for him and a lot of the teams he played on. A lot of the iterations of the team that he played on. But he did eventually get a LAN win at X Games, like I mentioned earlier with my honorable mention, Jacob. And he also got 2nd place at the famous Season 6 Worlds, 3rd place at Season 3 Worlds. Yeah, he I think clearly he's better than anyone below. Like I mentioned earlier, the guy in the tier below, the base of the pyramid, who was closest to being in this tier was Joyo, but I couldn't squeeze him in because there just wasn't enough space. Fireburner, definitely a level above everyone else, I think. No way is he better than Jack. Well, no, he's not. I think Jack is a better player than Fireburner. I think Fireburner would agree with you there. But if you look back at the past results, Jack and Fireburner are both won a LAN. Fireburner's also got 2nd place at RLCS Worlds. He's got 3rd place at RLCS Worlds. Jack hasn't done all that yet, so it has to be Fireburner for me. Let's continue. Rizzo. Right next to Fireburner, one of the all-time greats of North America when you talk about longevity. 4th place RLCS Season 2, 2nd place RLCS Season 7. Like Fireburner, quite a lot of disappointing RLCS results. 2nd place at DreamHack Leipzig as well, 2018. And 2nd place at... I swear there's another 2nd place somewhere in there. Well, I've forgotten it. I thought I had another one for you, but I don't. But of course, they did win E-League 1. Rizzo was in the E-League 1 winning G2, so it wasn't all 2nd places. And he did win RLCS Season 9 in North America online, so not worth as much as a LAN, but it is important still. Should have won RLCS Season 9, but COVID. I think they would have been one of the top 3 favourites. My top 3 favourites for RLCS Season 9 would have been Rizzo's G2. That was JNAPS, Rizzo, and Chicago. As well as Vitality, which was Fairy Peak K-Dop Alpha 54, and Dignitas, Astral, Yukio, Panda. I think they were the clear top 3 teams. It's a real shame we never got to see them play on LAN. That would have been amazing to see. yeah, very, 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 very unfortunate. Yan, same tier as Alpha Jack, is very sus. I don't think so at all. Yan was in the conversation for best in the world last year, and he did it from South America. If that's not greatness, I don't know what is. As well as coming top 4 at Worlds, the most important World Championship ever. PayPal transaction completed. Rizzle, you're a genius. I can't believe you've actually managed to say that now. And it could, yeah, I'm not going to spoil anything, but it could mean something else entirely. That's all I'm going to say. Don't want to spoil future content, guys. The man's a genius. Okay, let's continue. Atomic. So we had Rizzo on an older iteration of G2, Atomic on the newest iteration of G2, and I think they've both accomplished pretty similar things in the different eras that they've competed in. Atomic, of course, played on Envy as well. In the online era, which is worth a little bit, not much. But yeah, second place at the most important World Championship ever is an incredibly good result. Winner at Winter Major, incredible result. And yeah, best team in North America for a lot of this split. And he was the best player for the team, so I've got to chuck him on there. I think like the overall, that is a better package than anyone at the base of the pyramid. G2 Atomic, right next to Rizzo. G2 GOATs from different eras. Let's carry on. I'm putting Marky Duda. I couldn't fit the Duda unless I added it to a different line. It looked a bit weird, so I went for Marky. But Marky Duda, RLCS Season 1, second place. RLCS Season 2, first place. DreamHack Summer, first place. And one of the greatest players pre-RLCS as well. Really revolutionizing ground play. And he was the first, sniper when it came to shooting. You know, looking back through time, Marky was the first real sniper that you knew every shot was top corner if he's taking a shot. Then you had K-Dot, JNaps, lots of others throughout the years, but he was the first guy who was really known for that, really pushing air roll shots before anyone else. I think Marky and Cuxer might be the only 2 players doing it when they first started doing it pre-RLCS. So yeah, definitely one of the GOATs. His team actually, he's coaching in Gladiators now in APAC, and they just qualified for a LAN. So with any luck, you might see Marky Duda on LAN again. Maybe he's going to do a coach interview. I hope so, because he's a great personality for the scene. Wonderful to see him sticking around. But yeah, Marky, absolute pioneer with a lot of stuff. Got to chuck him in there. Lachinio air roll. When did Lachinio do air roll shots? Just because he's air rolling in RLCS Season 1 doesn't mean that he was pioneering air roll shots. Way before RLCS. I'm talking way back. Mohammed, thanks for the tier 1, by the way. Welcome to the channel. Marky moves up if they place well. I don't think so, but let's continue. Greasy, right next to Marky, came along a bit later, but like Jacob, he is one of the first players, like Maestro, one of the first players to challenge the SARP vet dominance. He also is one of the first players to really push fast aerial gameplay as a must in pro play. It was a very grounded meta before Greasy's We Dem Girls started taking everything airborne and backboard. And yeah, also joined Flipside and won the RCS World Championship in Season 2 after finishing 3rd in Season 1. One of the GOATs. I think they're both pretty comparable, Greasy and Marky, actually. Marky had more influence earlier, Greasy a bit later, but yeah, they both won a World Championship together. Both had other good finishes. Spent a long time as 2 of the best players in the world. Easy inclusions in the GOAT pyramid. Right next to them, I've got Metsonoris, who, despite not winning a World Championship, came 2nd at Season 4. He came 3rd at Season 5, and he won E-League 2 on a totally different team. So this guy's one of the most versatile players, lots of success on different rosters. Also 3rd place RLCS Season 6 on the same E-League winning roster. Yeah, great player. And he also made it to a much further in his career than Marky and Greasy did, despite being one of the pretty early day pros. This guy Metsa, he missed out on Season 3 Worlds by last second goal from Flipside, the defending champions. They nearly eliminated the defending champions from even being at the LAN. But a last second goal for Marky, Greasy, Cuxer stopped Metsa from having his LAN debut till Season 4, where they came 2nd place. And yeah, had much more time at the top since then, most recently with Endpoint alongside Seiko and Relating Wave. Let's keep going. We've got Astral in here, who similarly to Alpha 54 had a lot of his best Rocket League, where a lot of people considered him the best in the world or one of the best in the world during the online era. But if we go back before then, he actually had a little bit before the online era started, where he was also one of the best in the world. Third place RLCS Season 8, scoring crazy goals at events like Beyond the Summit. Before that, which by the way, mentioning Beyond the Summit, rest in peace Beyond the Summit. I saw the announcement today. Incredibly sad news that organization, the tournament organizer, the Beyond the Summit, has closed operations. I had a great time working the one event that I did do with them on LAN, and any other event I did online with them. They're all phenomenal people. I'm gonna miss them. It was really sad news today, but I just wanted to very quickly mention that because I know somebody's gonna probably say it in chat. Devastating news. But in looking back at the good, Astral Beyond the Summit scored some bangers, and we'll never forget those memories. Thanks to BTS. Yeah, Astral had a bit of a lull during RLCS Season X Online, where he was still really good, but his team wasn't doing that well, and then he didn't start off 2021 season too well. 2021-22, I should say. At the end, though, of course, had that great string of results with Nolly and Itachi, and then he got second place in the most recent major before not qualifying for this upcoming major. So I think definitely more longevity than some of the players below him, and a very good peak as well. Let's continue. Chaussette single-handedly made every pro think about playing the Fennec, and we can probably attribute the Fennec's popularity to this guy and his DreamHack Valencia and Beyond the Summit performances on that car. It's not just about the car itself, though. He brought dribbling and ground play back to the meta. The meta at that time was all aerial play. Nobody cared about controlling the ball on the ground. Well, very few people, unless you're boost starved or trying to mix things up. He really prioritized it, changed the meta. I think one of the most meta defining tournaments ever. I think probably top 4, top 5 meta defining tournaments. DreamHack Valencia, Chaussette, as well as winning that tournament and coming second at BTS. And having a win at DreamHack Leipzig 2019, no, it's 18 as well, so great longevity for his career, and still to this day playing in RLCS online, last season making lands. This is a no-brainer for me. Chaussette has to go on there. Seiko, one of the most recent players to the scene who's made it this high up on the list, this high up in the pyramid. Again, just really hard carry player, best on his team by a mile, probably best player in the world for a while, although you can't really, it's hard to say because of online Rocket League being so prevalent at the time. Won the world championship when he joined BDS. That's the biggest event that's ever happened, most important event that's ever happened in my opinion. He won it. And I think he got MVP. I would have probably given it to Monkey Moon, but I think Seiko was very, very, very close, very close. So I don't want to take anything away from him. It's just my opinion anyway. Who cares what I think? Great player, incredible carry, and hopefully he can come back to form, and we'll see him on a LAN again. But are people really saying L when he just won the world championship? That's crazy. This Worlds, I feel like it's worth double any other RLCS LAN. So it's as if he won 2 RLCS Worlds before the pandemic. It's as if he's a 2-time, like Panda, for example. This guy's insane. Mark, I'm also putting Mark on there. Although he didn't have any continued success after the fall major last season, he, along with Monkey Moon and Extra, did win the first LAN back after the pandemic, which was not it was obviously the least important LAN of that season because the one's closer to Worlds, and Worlds itself was more important for ranking teams and players. But it meant something in more of a greatness context for him and his teammates, because everybody was discussing EU versus NA at that time, which region's better, BDS versus NRG, which team's better, which region has a better play style. There was just so much talk, so much pressure on them to deliver after dominating Europe for a whole year in RLCS Season X in a way no other team had ever done. So much pressure for them to deliver, and they did. And Mark was a big part of that. A lot of people think, well, they benched him, so he must have been the worst player. I don't really think that's the case. I don't think Mark was the worst player from BDS. I think he was a really great player. I think a lot of players, a lot of pros worldwide were looking very closely at what he was doing to try and learn how to break rotation more effectively. I think Mark really did a lot in his time in BDS, And congrats on qualifying for the Winter Major. Can't wait to see him back in action. That, by the way, didn't affect his position on the GOAT list. I think he would have been here even if his team didn't do anything. It didn't qualify. But yeah, Mark was not the worst player in that team. He wasn't getting carried. Great player. Insane story. And it continues. It's still going on. Let's continue with this list though. I've got Vatira, and I'm just going to reveal the next one as well. Rise and Vatira together. Now I said that the only thing stopping Joyo, who was the closest to being in the next list, from being there, is because now that Vatira, Rise, and Joyo have all separated, Joyo is in a trough of his career. I think he's going to rise out of it. No pun intended. But for now, Rise and Vatira are the players in the upper trajectory. Vatira, online dominance. Rise, second place at the last major. They're the guys who... Joy obviously got that as well, but now his team's failed to qualify. Vatira and Rise... I think Vatira online was the greatest player last year, and Rise had the insane LAN stats. I mean, I feel like you've got to put Rise and Vatira above Joyo at the moment because of that. But like I said, Joyo, if I had more space in this tier, Joyo was the next player up, but I just ran out of space. I wanted it to be symmetrical. So yeah, I think Vatira and Rise right now are greater than Joyo, but Joyo in a very, very short time has already entered the top 50 greatest players of all time, which is actually kind of crazy if you think about it. And I like Mark by 8, other players who are right now in a trough. Well, Mark's just exiting one. Joyo and Seiko are in one. I think that they can get out of it and continue to rise up the GOAT pyramid. Not really much else to say there about Rise of Vatira. First Killer, I'm putting First Killer a tier above the kind of next gen. So First Killer is like part of that next generation of talent for NA. Rettles, Mist, Arsenal, FK, Beast Mode, AJ maybe a little bit before that. Atomic, definitely one of those players. I think out of the next gen, Atomic and First Killer are the clear best two. The reason I can't put him any higher is because although he's been one of the best players in North America, one of the best players in the world, he doesn't have wins. He doesn't have LAN wins. Fourth place is not as great as second place, not as great as first place. It just isn't. So players who have wins and players who have silver medals, I rank that a lot better than fourth. And I think like a lot of other players that you're seeing at the bottom of this pyramid, First Killer can absolutely rise way up in this pyramid. I think his career is far from over. And I think he's definitely going to keep rising way up this thing. But for now, this is the highest I could put him because he hasn't made it better than fourth at a LAN event. He just hasn't. Fourth is his best finish. But that could change at the Winter Major. It really could. He's currently on a team that could win one. So maybe he's already going to rise up a level after the next major. But right now, just how dominant he is in his own region is enough to put him on there. I'm also going to put Sipical on here, kind of similar to Atomic and First Killer. He's one of the players who just considered the absolute best in the region for a long time. He has a 4th place at RLCS Season 8, as well as multiple 4th places last season with First Killer on LANs. But yeah, First Killer came a little bit later than Sipical. Sipical was the best player in North America for a while. Then First Killer was the best player in North America. Now they team together, and I think First Killer's been more effective in that team. But yeah, Sipical I think still deserves to be there because he's got more longevity, a longer career. Started in Season 8, got 4th place at Worlds, got 2nd place at RLCS Season 9 before First Killer even started playing. So that's why First Killer, although he's like caught up to Sipical, hasn't yet gone past him, even though I think, First Killer is clearly the best in that team. Now, hold on. Before I start the next line, I'm going to address Twitch chat right now. Do you guys type 1 in chat if you think Daniel needs to be on the top 50 greatest players of all time pyramid, because I'll let you in a little secret. He's not on my top 50 all time. He wasn't even in my honorable mentions, which was 12 different players. And Daniel, I think, will be on this list at some point. I think he will. He has the potential to be close to the top of it. But right now, his best results, I mean, I've got them all if you want me to read them out. His results start in 2022. He's got a 3rd place at the Winter Major. And that's it. He's got a 3rd place at the Winter Major. 3rd place at the Winter Major. That's where his important LAN results. 6th place at the Spring Major, I guess, as well, because they nearly beat Moist. So yeah, for 3rd place Winter Major, 6th place Spring Major. That's just not good enough, I'm afraid. It's not good enough. He's definitely one of the best players in NA, but even in North America, his team has been like battling for LAN spots. They're not like clearly qualifying like some of the other teams. It's not like they're just comfortably qualifying. So I can't put him on there. Now, the reason I've got Beast Mode in instead of Daniel is because Beast Mode, I think, has been a little bit better than Daniel overall. In the Daniel era, I think Beast Mode has outplayed him. Let's compare the results first of all. Beast Mode was 6th place at the Winter Major, 3rd place at the Spring Major. Daniel was 3rd place at Winter Major, 6th place at the Spring Major. So they're completely mirrored at Majors last season. Then you have the World Championship where V1 made top 8, Space Station didn't. So I think Beast Mode's results are better, even since Daniel started playing competitively, playing RLCS. And before that, Beast Mode was also a carry for a different team. I think it was Pioneers, right? Or Shopify or something. I forget which one it was. But yeah, Beast Mode right now is greater than Daniel for 3v3 because he simply has more results, more longevity, and he's carried multiple teams. So I think Beast Mode's greater. But yeah, Daniel will be on this thing. There's no question in my mind. He will be on here, but he needs the results. Needs to play a little bit longer. Daniel over Kaio? Nah, no way. No way. Kaio 4th place at the World Championship? Kaio? Really? I think Daniel over Kaio, who's been like the best player in South America since like 2017. Kaio's longevity precedes RLCS. He is the GOAT of his region because he was the guy who probably inspired the entire RLCS player base in South America. He was the first competitive player from South America and Brazil. Like I said before, that's not greatness. I don't know what is. Like Ahmad and Kaio, cornerstones of the region, cornerstones of the pyramid. Without them, I don't think we'd have like anywhere near as much success from the minor regions. Okay, let's continue to the next level. Kronovi. I think this will be a very obvious one. Kronovi just at the tier 3, one of the pioneers of early seasons and pre-season. Also E-League 1 winner, so he had a little bit more longevity than players like Marky and Greasy. Kronovi won a world championship, so did Marky and Greasy, but then Kronovi stayed at the top and won E-League as well after Season 4, so more longevity from Kronovi. He went on to actually get a 4th place at Season 7 as well, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, Kronovi had a lot more longevity than some of the other original greatest players in the early days. That's why he's a level above some of the other OGs that I've already put on my pyramid, like Marky and Greasy. But yeah, if you think Kronovi's low, just wait till you see the names above. I don't think he's low. I think Kronovi's exactly where he should be. I do value the early seasons a little bit. I mean, I do value pre-RLCS a little bit, but not much. I think LANs are really the most important thing. Kronovi does have LAN success. But yeah, I do give him some credit for being one of the first players considered best in the world. And also, pre-RLCS having so much success. Let's continue though. I've got Chicago as Kronovi's first friend in the 3rd tier of the pyramid. When you look at Chicago's career, you had a lot of near misses for a long time. 2nd place at Season 7. He actually eliminated G2, I believe it was, from Season 6. Before that, on a different team, Evil Geniuses. So although he was a G2 great and has had most of his success with G2 by far, he did also give G2 a bit of a headache a couple times when he was destroying them on a totally different team. Now, I mentioned Ignite earlier as one of the players who kind of kickstarted the career by dominating the rival series. That's actually what Chicago did as well. He's one of the other players who dominated the rival series, and because of that, got recognized and picked up onto a top team straight away. And then, yeah, when he got picked up onto a top team, EG, he kept dominating. So he got picked up by G2 to replace Kronovi. And yeah, they got 2nd place Season 7. They won Season 9 online together. And then, of course, when Rizzo left the roster, they eventually got Atomic. And I don't need to tell you what happened there, but I will. They won the Winter Major, 2nd place at Worlds. That's a pretty big deal. Yeah, I don't think I need to defend that Chicago pick too much. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free. Let's continue though. Cuxer 97. Now Cuxer, I thought should Cuxer be higher? You know, he's a guy who really popularized the Dominus, popularized the Batmobile, popularized a lot of the early meta stuff. He was part of the first team who defined rotation. 3-man rotation, Cuxer, Mike, and Marky. but I think, when it comes to actual wins, he just doesn't compare to the players that I've got above him. If we were talking, who influenced the entire player base, yeah, this guy, he'd be number one. I think he's got more influence than any other player in history. But that's not what this is about. It's about greatest. That's part of it, but a small part of it. I think lands are the big part of it. And he's got 3 LAN wins, WSOE with Speed and Mystic. DreamHack Summer with Marky and Mystic, and then he's got, of course, RLCS Season 2 with Marky and Greasy, and Season 1 second place with Mike and Marky. So 4 different teams, 4 different good LAN results. Actually, he got a top 4, I think, at DreamHack Valencia with a lot, and who was it? Speed, I think? Just trying to guess off the top of my head. I can't remember it. But yeah, he's had a lot of different teams, a lot of different eras, and he's been successful in a lot of them. So yeah, he was definitely the best player for a while as well. That's why I don't think it's controversial to put him up here. But yeah, I consider like the most recent RLCS season the most important one, and he wasn't a part of it really, except in regionals. So that's why I can't put him any higher. I mean, you'll see the players I got above him. But yeah, Cuxer's obviously one of the GOATs. I think as other players in this tier start to fall out and be replaced over time, Cuxer will probably still be in here for a while. He's one of the ones that's, he was close to being a tier above, just like Joyo was close to being a tier above down here. Not sure, actually. This tier was pretty well defined. I didn't really have difficulty with this one. But yeah, Joyo was very close to going up. Cuxer very close to going up. Not quite. I've also got Remco in here. RLCS Season 1, 3rd place. Season 2, 3rd place. Season 4, winner. E-League 2, winner. Many successful lands. DreamHack Dallas, 2nd place. X Games, 4th place, I believe. DreamHack Atlanta, 4th place. Loads of successful lands for this guy. One of the first players to challenge the SARP vets. Yeah, definitely has to go on there. Did I say Season 4 winner? It was supposed to be Season 3 winner. Season 1 and 2, 3rd place. I might have got that wrong. But yeah, he has 2 thirds and a 1st at RLCS. Yeah, I don't think I need to really explain that. That's an easy one. Let's continue. Devo, much like Cuxer, really had the whole pro scene looking at him in the early seasons, copying him and everything he does because he was simply the best player. He didn't have actually that much when it came to lands though. He got 2nd place at Season 1. No, sorry, 2nd place Season 2, and then 1st place Season 3, and then a few 4th places. I think X Games 4th, DreamHack Dallas or Atlanta 4th. But that was kind of it. Like as far as results go, he didn't have as much when it came to results as some of the other players at the top of the pyramid. But he did, he did have a long stint as undisputed best in the world that everybody's copying. Yeah, players like Chaussette, Devo, Cuxer 97. Definitely, I think those are probably my top 3. Greasy's probably in there as well. Meta-defining players, just crazy. When it came to how many pros are looking at them and copying exactly what they're doing. Let's continue. Extra, right above his teammates Seiko and Mark, because he played with both of them. Mark and Seiko never played together. Extra had a lot of success with Mark that I told you about earlier, and then he had a lot of success with Seiko that I told you about afterwards. Or I think I told you about Seiko first, but yeah, he played with Seiko afterwards. So yeah, he had a ton of success with both those guys. Right now in a bit of a trough like Seiko, but I think that team's still very talented. I hope they can get out of it. I'd love to see them play at LAN this season. Hopefully they'll make it to spring. I just want to see it because they've got such a great story. I'll be sad if it didn't continue. But yeah, he won Fall Major and Worlds and dominated the online era for EU. Enough said. Great player. Fairy Peak, also in this 3rd tier. RLCS Season 3, 2nd place. RLCS Season 7 winner. RLCS Season 8 2nd place. I think he must have another result that I'm forgetting, another LAN result that I'm forgetting. Oh yeah, they won RLCS Season X after BDS dominated the whole year. Vitality put them to the post for Season X, just kind of ruining BDS's year. But yeah, Fairy Peak definitely one of the greatest. 2nd place at DreamHack Leipzig. Yeah, just a really great player. If you included his achievements in ones, he'd be maybe even higher. But I didn't, by the way. Just so I know people are going to think like, oh, you took ones into consideration. I didn't at all. But yeah, Fairy Peak, he deserves to be up there. I think. I've got Scrub Killer right next to him. The Scrub Killer is a very unique case in this list. He got first place at RLCS Season 7, second place at RLCS Season 8. But the reason I have to put Scrub up here in one of the GOATs is because he was the original, probably the best player who doesn't even play RLCS. For a long time, this guy couldn't play RLCS. He was already beating the best players in the world when he was 12. The tiers are kind of in any order, AJ. If what you mean is is anyone in this tier in an order? No, that's just I made it the reds together, the blues together to make it look pretty. It's not no particular order. But yeah, Scrub, I had to take into consideration the fact that he was already beating pros when he was 12, 13, 14. As the amount of anticipation and pressure on this guy to deliver. He did. He won RLCS Season 7. Got second place at DreamHack Leipzig 2019, I believe it was. And won second place RLCS Season 8. Really, really a crazy accomplishment. And, continued into RLCS 2021-22. I think that fall major for Scrub Killer could have gone deeper with Jack and Joria's, but it just wasn't meant to be. They looked like the best team coming out of Swiss, and then they just totally beamed it in the quarterfinal. Lost to Archie. So unlucky. Archie ruining Scrub Killer's legacy. Will that be the last time that we see him we're looking like a team with a chance to win a LAN? I hope not, but right now he's fighting for regional qualification in EU with NAS and Rixie. But yeah, this is a very unique case. Very unique case. The original Wonder Kid, the original Prodigy. I think he inspired many, and I think that he's a great player. The first player to deliver on all that hype as well. If that's no greatness, I don't know what is. Next up, we've got Gimmick from Cloud9 mostly, was when he got all his results. And I'm going to reveal the next one as well, because they're kind of a 1-2 combo, and it's Torment. Gimmick and Torment are no-brainers for this tier. I mean, earlier on, you guys are saying that I put players like First Killer too low. I mean, look at this list. Kronovi, Chicago, Cuxer, Remco Devo, Extra, Fairy Peak Scrub, Gimmick, Torment. It's tough. It's stacked. I don't think you can squeeze any of these guys. Like I said, Joyo is very close to this next tier up. Cuxer's the closest to being a tier above where these guys are at. But I did not have any difficulty cementing these guys as above the tier below, because this is just incredibly stacked. Torment and Gimmick, Season 6 winners, Season 4 third place at World, Season 7 third equal. Then of course they've had some success. Mostly Torment had a bit of success with Beast Mode recently. But in their time together, I think Gimmick was best in the world for a while. I've talked about this recently. I think for the end of Season 6, Gimmick was probably the best player in the world in the most mechanical player in the world in the most. So I have to give him a shout in this level. He does have. He also has the Universal Open 2v2 win over Torment as well. Although that's not 3v3, it is something. Right, let's continue. Let's get into the next tier. Starting off with JNaps, one of the North American GOATs, one of the most. Second only to Garrett G in terms of longevity. Garrett G's been around since Season 1. JNap's been around since Season 3, and he's still at the top of the game. Crazy. Absolutely crazy to see. The recent success in RLCS 2021-22 pushed him into this tier. All the other North Americans I have in this tier were already in it before last season. JNaps joined them with the 2021-22 success. Second at Worlds, winning Winter Major. Before that, they won E-League 1. He won it with Kronovi and Rizzo, and he got second place at Season 7 with Chicago and Rizzo. So yeah, crazy longevity for this guy. One of that early, he was really the first of the first next gen we had for NA. Like, they're all old now, but yeah, he was the first player to challenge the established order in North America of Fireburner and Kronovi's teams. Yeah, JNaps comes along and he's like, actually, it's not Kronovi's team anymore, it's my team. But let's continue. Garrett G, I already said, longevity in NA. For me, I said that these are in no particular order, but I will go ahead and say, I think for me, Garrett is probably my NA GOAT personally. Because people talk as if he's been carried by Justin. I don't think he's been carried by Justin. I think Garrett is he's probably the greatest North American player to ever play the game. definitely belongs in this tier though. He's a bit behind my top two, but yeah, Garrett G, no explanation needed. He's been around since season one, and he's won RLCS Worlds, come second another time, won multiple other LANs, X Games and BTS. Yeah, no one's gonna really argue that one, are they? I've also got Panda in here. Couldn't fit Violent Panda, and it looked a bit weird when I had Violent and Panda on different lines, so I just wrote Panda. That's of course Violent Panda. Two-time world champion for RLCS. Third place RLCS season 8. First place EU Online RLCS Season 9, second place RLCS Season 2 without K-Dop or Turbo in his team. He's had ridiculous success on multiple rosters, and 2 world championships mixed in, along with other lands as well. They won DreamHack Leipzig with Turbo and Yukio. Yeah, the amount of success this guy's had, not just on the greatest roster of all time. I mean, a lot of people will say, well, Panda only won all that because he had Turbo and K-Dop on his team. Well, actually, he got second place at Worlds in Season 2 without them, and then he got third place at Worlds in Season 8, again, without them. So you've got to give him his spot in this second tier, in my opinion. You just have to. You've also got to give Monkey Moon a spot in this tier, in my opinion. Monkey Moon is probably, and I say probably because of the pandemic, probably the best player for over a year. I don't think after seeing the success they had in 2021-22 that's even controversial anymore. If I told you guys that Monkey Moon's the best player in the world when we were in the middle of the pandemic, all of you guys from NA, and don't even for a second tell me I'm lying, because I know it's true. Every one of you from NA would say that that's nonsense. He's just farming a weaker region. Now we all know that was not that it was actually just true, that Monkey Moon was the best player. He was dominating a region that then won the following season after the pandemic. So we just have to say that Monkey Moon was probably the best player for 1 year, if not 2. He was in the conversation for 2 years for being best player in the world. Just so happened it was in the online era. Otherwise, maybe he'd be even higher in this list. If it wasn't for online era, maybe he'd be higher. But I think you can't speculate with like rankings like that. I'm only talking about it. He was robbed by the pandemic. He might be the GOAT if it wasn't for the pandemic, but he's not, because he didn't do it on LAN until the next year when he did do it on LAN, won the Fall Major, won the World Championship, and he was the best player in his team, in my opinion, the whole time, and still is. Yeah, Monkey Moon's incredible. Still one of the best players in the world, even though his team's not doing the greatest. As soon as they get their mental back in check, I think they're going to be back on top. I've also got Justin in this tier. If Garrett's the greatest NA player of all time, Justin is the best NA. Did I say NA? Garrett's the greatest NA player of all time. Justin's the best NA player of all time for me. He had the highest peak from anyone in NA. He was the best in Season 5, and he was still in the best conversation for Season 6, 7, and 8 as well. Just like Monkey Moon, there's probably a 2-year period where he's top 3 worldwide, no questions asked. Just crazy consistency. But yeah, he did only start in Season 5. Garrett had been around since Season 1, JNAP Season 3, so they're all very close actually in what they've been able to do. Number 1, he won Season 8, of course, second place Season 5. Every result I told you about Garrett, Justin's probably been there for it, apart from X Games in Season 3, where Garrett came 3rd with Fireburner and Jacob. And then I've got Squishy a level above his Cloud9 teammates, simply because he joined NRG and kept winning. When Gimmick joined, I forgot who Gimmick even joined. Who did Gimmick join? Torment ended up on V1. What team did Gimmick join? I don't even remember. But yeah, well, basically in 2020, let me actually get my results here. In 2020, when Squishy joined Justin and Garrett and dominated NA, yeah, I don't see Gimmick or Torment in any of the top 4s for that season. And even at the start of the fall split last season into the Winter Major, NRG were still a top tier team. It took all the way till the NA Winter Major last split before Torment and V1 surpassed NRG, and I think that was mostly off the back of Beast Mode, although Torment does get credit for that. So yeah, you have to put Squishy ahead of Gimmick and Torment. Second place at the Fall Major is a better result than any of these guys. Well, I guess you could. No, I'd say second place. I was gonna say, what do you guys value more? Torment's top 8 at Worlds or Squishy's second place at the Fall Major? I think second place at the Fall Major last season is better than a top 8 at Worlds. So yeah, I think he's had the best result out of his 3 teammates, and he has to be a level above them as a result. because when they separated, he went up, they went down. Squishy got top 8 as well. True. I don't really value. I'll just be honest with you guys. I don't really value their top 8 as much as Torment's top 8, though. I think they had a Mickey bracket, but I don't want to talk about that because that's just like I'm trying to talk about goats here. We're not here to talk about top 50 Mickey brackets of all time. It was a Mickey bracket though. Let's not lie to ourselves. But yeah, I think very easy list here. Cuxer was the player who was closest to making it in this, but not enough space. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been symmetrical. Had to leave him in the level below. If we made this a little bit sooner, if we made this before JNaps went and won all of last season, or Monkey Moon, Cuxer would have been in this tier for sure. But Monkey Moon JNaps did too much last season, pushing Cuxer down. No such thing as a Mickey bracket, please. Yes, there is. Come on, don't be silly. Yes, there is. But yeah, the top 2. Easy peasy, K-Dop and Turbo. K-Dop is, in my opinion, the greatest Rocket League player of all time, but Turbo is closer to K-Dop than he is to all the players below them. Turbo is closer to K-Dop than he is to JNaps, Garrett, Panda, Monkey Moon, Justin, and Squishy. These are the clear top 2, and one day maybe someone will eclipse both of them. But until then, it's K-Dop and Turbo. Yeah, for me, a lot of people will say Turbo, and I think there's a great argument for it. I've got another video recently where I discussed why I think K-Dop is the greatest over Turbo, but it's super close. Very, very close. And yeah, they're both, I think, way clear of the 6 players below them. Way clear. K-Dop 3-time world champion, Turbo 4-time world champion. K-Dop also got second place at 2 other world championships, as well as coming first at 3 of them. And he also had more online domination than Turbo. Yeah, they both won other lands as well, though. DreamHack Leipzig 2019 for Turbo, Beyond the Summit for Turbo. K-Dop won, where is it again? He won RLCS Season X online for EU. Second place, he won second place Season 9 for EU. The one RLCS Season X for EU. Yeah, insane. Insane players. Just way clear the competition, in my opinion. Dominated the world together, and then when they separated, they kept dominating. But yeah, K-Dop, I think, edges it for me in terms of longevity and also overall results. And yeah, I think K-Dop had a longer stint as undisputed best in the world as well. The Season 4 era, pretty sure most people had K-Dop best player in the world. Turbo was right there with him the whole way, but yeah, K-Dop's my personal GOAT. Turbo's way closer to K-Dop than anyone else. So this is like, if K-Dop is a 10, Turbo's a 9.9. These guys are all like, 8 or below in terms of how close. That's not like their actual rankings. That's just giving an idea of how close Turbo is to K-Dop compared to how close he is to these guys. Wait, Turbo's asking, what did he ask? Can I get purple color? Let's see if it works on dark mode to get purple color. Oh, it does actually. Not gonna lie, that looks kind of cool. You're a genius. I'm gonna leave it like that. He wants purple for NA and EU, but it looks kind of cool being at top of the pyramid. But I actually said for Jack and Nolly earlier, like Jack, Nolly, Turbo. When you're talking like them as a player, they are just European. I color coded this so that you could spot players who originated in what region. If Garrett moves to Europe, he doesn't become blue Garrett G. He'd still be red when you're talking about his career. But yeah, if we're, like I said, when I do prediction streams, I color players the region that they're entering the tournament from, because it makes it easy for players to spot North American teams, European teams. But when you're talking players, I mean, he's a European player, so blue for Europe.